Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, this is going to be an awesome episode. We're going to be talking about branding, marketing. We're going to be talking about funnels. We're going to be talking about how to pivot. And this young lady we're going to talk to, she is a boss babe, and she is also the pivot queen. You've probably seen her on TV. You've probably seen her in shows. You've probably seen some of the stuff that she's actually put on people like Paris Hilton. She's been everywhere. She's done it all. And I'm so grateful to have her on my show. Amber, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Richard. I'm excited to connect with your audience.
I'm so grateful for you to be here. Now, you have gone through so many pivots in your life. Everything from being a civil engineer to fashion to what you're doing now. So what is your definition of resiliency?
I believe resilience is something that's created and built over time. With a lot of these things, such as confidence or self-esteem, a lot of us think that we're going to wake up one day and have self-confidence, or we're going to wake up one day and have resilience. But that's not been my personal experience of resilience. It's something that I've had to build over time, often on the back of a hardship. And for me, there's been some very big hardships, but then there's also smaller little wins that I've had along the way, or failures, I guess, that I've had along the way that have then led me to pick myself back up again and have another go at that thing that I was just trying to do, which in hindsight has helped me build resilience.
Okay, we're going to talk about some of that resilience, Pinky. We're going to talk about that a little bit. You don't have the normal New York accent, New Jersey accent. So tell us a little bit about where you come from, where did you grow up, and how did you become the force that you are today?
Well, I'm an Aussie mate. I'm down under in Australia. So I was raised with three brothers. I'm a civil engineer. I went to basically was just raised with the boys and studied engineering because I was really good at maths and science, and was on the construction site for about a year. I used to build roads and bridges on a construction site, one of the biggest companies here in Australia. And I was on the construction site sketching dresses one day when my mentor on the site found me, and she was like, I don't think you want to be an engineer anymore. I think you want to, go and do this fashion thing that you have this passion for, which was something that I always wanted to do. Ever since I was a child, I always wanted to be a fashion designer. I always thought I would grow up to do that. But in my family, you couldn't do that. This was back in the day where entrepreneurship used to be called small business, and it used to be frowned upon if you had a small business. It was, you were rewarded if you had a good paying job like engineering. If you started your own fashion label, it was sort of like, oh, can you not get a job? Is there something wrong with you? So it wasn't like the hashtag entrepreneur life that we see on Instagram these days. So I started that fashion label with me on a sewing machine. We made 4 shirts the first week and sold 4 shirts. We made 8 shirts the next week and sold 8 shirts. And then 5 years later, we had 120 accounts around Australia. Around the world, sorry. We exported to Paris, Tokyo, LA, and South Africa, and dressed some of the biggest celebrities at the time, which was Paris Hilton. And this was kind of before social media. So in order to get the original influencer dressed, it was sort of a big deal. And she went on to wear our stuff over in LA, which for a little Aussie girl was a huge thing for us. So that was my first business. I thought I would have that business for my entire life. It was my dream. It was all I ever wanted to do. But the universe had bigger plans for me. My manufacturer went out of business, which caused me to go out of business. I had an insane amount of debt that had to be, I had to go bankrupt to deal with. And I had basically worked myself to death. So I was hospitalized with cancer. I was on stomach ulcers. I had stomach ulcers. I was on anti-anxiety tablets and antidepressant tablets. And I was, very much near not surviving much longer. So that was sort of my first lesson in resilience. I spent about a year going back to getting a day job and thinking that I was going to be an employee again. And it turns out that I'm a terrible employee. So I finished up with that job and started my second business, which was a fashion consulting business. So this is where I was working one-on-one with people. So I was showing up and styling them and dressing them for events like celebrities, doing red carpet events all around the world, or magazine covers or TV shows, that kind of thing. And again, I thought this was going to be my dream job because I was working with celebrities. By that point, I'd done a lot of television. So I was a TV reporter for fashion TV. I was presenting myself on TV. And again, I thought this was going to be my dream life. I got to hang out front row and interview celebrities and dress, or, go to all these glamorous parties and dress all these fabulous people. But again, the universe had bigger plans for me, and the effects of the GFC eventually hit my industry, and I lost all of my contracts in the space of about a month. So once again, I was unemployed and unemployable. I tried to go back to the construction site, but they didn't even want to take me back, and I could not get work. I spent about 6 months in bed, really contemplating whether I even wanted to exist anymore, because fashion was my dream. It was all I ever wanted to do. And I realized it was the end. So once again, I had to develop that resiliency to be, what do I want to do now? Where do I want to take this? What skills have I developed over the last decade of working like this that I can now pivot and transition into a new business? And this was back in 2015, and I sold my first e-course back then. So back then I used to have to explain to people what an e-course was. I used to say, you're going to get your logins, you're going to study it on your phone. And, this was all a very new concept. That first e-course sold 6 figures in the first year. And I realized that I could monetize all of my passions, because as we've just heard, I have a lot of, a multi-passionate entrepreneur. So I monetized my second passion, which was personal branding and publicity, which was obviously what I was doing in my second business. I turned that into an e-course. We did 6 figures in 6 months. My next e-course was on mindset, because at this point I had to develop some pretty strong mindset habits to help me get through what I'd overcome. That course did 6 figures in 6 weeks. And then I realized at that point I was really good at creating online courses. So I created a course about courses, and we did 6 figures in pre-sales. So from there, life has just been really what I call my dream life. I've gone on to write the book Dream Life, which literally is the book about online business. It helps you go from where you are now to running one of these automated online businesses. And nowadays, I get to share my knowledge with people like you and really help inspire other people who are going through a journey like this to think maybe there is something more for them waiting on the other side.
Okay, so let's go back to the construction site, because I've done about 12 hours of studying on you. I've read and watched everything I can find. And it amazes me that you said you would go on to the work site not wearing the regular stuff that other people wear. And you actually embraced being different, because a lot of us, we are different, but we don't embrace being different. And being different is what sets us apart. But you weren't just wearing regular work boots and jeans, right?
No, you've done your research. I painted my steel cap boots pink, and my nickname on site was Pinky. And I used to rock a very urban chic vibe. Like I had a little crop denim shorts and some like a knit top, like tank top, all very, very cool and very chic, and definitely not what you would wear on a construction site. When I think about it these days, it seems ridiculous. And then funnily enough, and again, I don't remember this, but on Saturdays, because we did a 6-day work week, on Saturdays, you basically just went into the office and did your paperwork and caught up with whatever needed to be done in the office. So you didn't have to go on site. So you didn't have to wear construction boots. Apparently, and I don't know if this is true because I don't remember, but apparently I used to wear a full glam, like cocktail dresses, like high heel shoes, and like strutting into this little demountable building in, head to toe glam, all very matching nails and everything, which is outrageous.
So, okay, let's start with your first business, because a lot of us, we make horrible employees. I was a great employee. I spent 23 years in the military and over 30 with GNC, but I always had that itch for entrepreneurship. But so what was it like, the uncertainty from going to a paycheck? Now, okay, I made 8 shirts. Now I have to sell 8 shirts. So because there's a big switch between an employee mindset and a business owner mindset. So how easy was it to flip the script?
I don't think I ever realized that I was a business owner. All that I was doing was following my passion every day. At that point, I was living with my parents. So let's be clear, I wasn't paying rent or anything. And I was still quite a young girl. I think I was about 21 when I started that business. But I never realized what I was getting into. And I think in hindsight, if I had to realize what I was about to do, I'm not sure that I would have had the courage to do it. all that I was doing every day was following my passion, following my bliss, doing the thing that really excited me that day, which eventually led to being this big global business that was dressing A-list celebrities. But for anyone that's trying to figure out what is my purpose, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, I know that this job isn't it, but I don't know what I could be doing other than the job. I always say just do the thing that you're really excited about doing, that you would do for free, that you would do, you know, on Sunday afternoons. You're just going to study that thing on YouTube, or on, you know, Wednesday night, and, you know, instead of hanging out with your family or watching TV, you're going to read the book or read the blogs about this thing that you're really passionate about. If I look back across all three of my businesses, they've all started in that exact same way. And all three of them started with me just going, oh, I'm just kind of interested in this. I'm just sort of passionate about learning this. In particular, this business, the digital marketing business, I studied 18 e-courses in my first year of this business. So that's basically one e-course every 2 weeks. I'd study a course on Saturdays and Sundays. On Mondays, I'd wake up and implement whatever I learned that weekend. And I did that basically every weekend for the first year. And that's how I was able to have immediate success in this business. But I was doing that, again, not because I thought this was a global business. Back in 2015, this wasn't a global business. This was, again, a little side hobby with someone selling a couple of courses. It was never meant to be what it's turned into. But each time I just followed my bliss. I followed what I was passionate about. I did the thing on the weekends that, instead of being, you know, having leisure time, I was studying and implementing. And that's how each of my businesses have grown.
But now, because your story reminds me of, I had the authors of Rich Dad Poor Dad come on the show, and we were talking about how when Robert, his wallet business really took off, and then all of his suppliers went out of business, and he's left with hundreds of thousands of dollars of wallets, and he's like, I just got to keep going. I can't quit. So pretty much your first business went under, but obviously it was a stressful situation, physically, mentally, spiritually, but you decided to start business number two. And I think it's because you learned, you failed forward. You didn't just say, okay, you know, because I always believe that, you know, failure is an event. It's not a person. So you never just said, oh, you know what, Amber, you're a failure. We're not good at this. So we're going to go back to a 9 to 5 for full time. You still had that itch. So what made you go to start a second business and not think, I'm going to fail again? Or do you think, well, I failed already, so I know what not to do next time?
I did try to go back to get a job, and I lasted about 1 year as an employee and became so depressed at the thought that this was going to be the rest of my life. So it was like, this is you for the next 50, 60 years. You're just going to be showing up to a job that you don't particularly like, doing work that you're not particularly passionate about, and, you know, in a lifestyle that you don't really believe in. Like, I value freedom as my highest quality in life. My life, even these days, is I travel 6 months of the year. I love being on planes. I love getting on a one-way ticket and exploring and adventuring. And I realized that life wouldn't be possible if I had a 9 to 5 job. So I feel like the fear of being stuck and looking at the rest of your life, like looking what your life would be like, has really propelled me to create this kind of life for myself. If I look at my dad, and he's probably a great example, he graduated from engineering. He got a job as an engineer with the one company, and he retired from that company, whatever it was, 65 years later. He never changed roles. He never changed companies. He just worked in this one job and hated every single day, but he did it every single day because he had 4 kids. And I think looking at him, I realized that is not what I'm going to do for myself. I will do whatever it takes. I will work however hard it takes, so long as I don't have to live that life. So when I think about starting that second business, again, I don't know that I was going into it thinking I was going to build a big brand. I was just very passionate about styling people and dressing people and making them look and feel good about themselves. And I feel like that, again, that passion, that energy, that excitement is what drove that business to become a big brand.
So what lessons did you take from business one into business two?
So business one, we actually got quite a lot of publicity despite being a tiny little fashion label from Brisbane. I guess the beauty of being in Brisbane is a small. It's the third biggest capital city, but at that time it was a teeny tiny little city, and everyone in the fashion industry knew everyone by first name. So I knew all the fashion editors, I knew all the TV presenters, I knew all the radio presenters. So whenever I had a new collection, I would literally just ring my friend who was the fashion editor at the glossy publication and say, "Hey, I've got a new collection. Can you put it in the magazine?" And she'd say, "Yes, Amber, send it over." So I got a very good understanding of publicity when running that business. So when I started my second business, I presented myself as a public brand, if you will. So as an influencer. We didn't have influencers back then, but that's how I presented myself. I looked at my competitors who had been in the game for 10 years, 15 years, and I realized that I had to put out a persona that showed that I was the expert, that showed that I was better than them at their job. And I did that by creating a very strong personal brand. And by that, I mean, I presented myself really well. I made sure all of my social media and my website was very well presented. And I went and got a lot of publicity opportunities. So I contacted the local publications. I was down in Melbourne by this stage. And I reached out to them and said, "Hey, can we do work together? Can I publish something in your magazine? Can I get an editorial published?" So it was building these connections, these relationships that eventually led me to get the role as the fashion editor for Women's Health and Fitness magazine and the resident stylist at the biggest radio and TV network here in Australia. But a lot of that was from me presenting as a personal brand.
Okay, so for me, I'm all about building relationships. And hopefully from today on, we'll build a generational relationship. And anybody that I've ever had on the show, we're still all friends. All 1,200 of them, I still keep in contact with all of them. Even like my mentor, Mr. John Lee Dumas, we're personal friends. And that's why we've been friends for 7 years, me and him. And I never asked him for anything until I said, "Hey, I got a new book coming out," and I sent it to him. He's like, "Can I endorse it?" I would love to endorse it. But that relationship was 7 years in building. And I think a lot of people in business don't realize how important relationships are, and relationships are everything. So for that second business, you built a lot of relationships, correct?
Mm-hmm. When I was elected the fashion editor at Women's Health and Fitness magazine, I had worked for that company for that editor. So I was hired by the editor to be the fashion editor. I'd worked for her for free for maybe 5 or 6 articles. So I had created articles and editorials and posts and pages for her for free for 3 or 4 years more. Before she eventually said, "Hey, do you want to come on board in a more official capacity? We can get you in as a fashion editor. You can do shoots every month," that kind of thing. But yeah, that was definitely something. And that was a highlight of my career, that position. And that definitely came as a result of me providing value in advance of wanting something in return.
Okay, so built business number 2 goes down the tubes. So now, because they said most millionaires and billionaires have lost at least 4 businesses. So you're halfway there. You were halfway there. So, after going through more physical, more mental, what made you say, "All right, let's do number 3"? So what you started business number 3, what did you learn from business number 1 and business number 2?
Great question. So this is the first business where I feel like I am utilizing all of the skills that I've learned up until this point. So if I think about my role as a celebrity stylist, you didn't really need an engineering degree to be a great celebrity stylist. You needed the lessons that I learned from business number 1, but the engineering degree was sort of, neither here nor there. In this business, I feel like it's the first one where I'm utilizing all of my experience. So my engineering degree helps me read algorithms, do Facebook ads, study data, look at numbers, figure out whether we're profitable. I need that engineering degree to run a great Facebook ad campaign, which is wild. My second business, running the fashion label, is essentially like running a production line. It's, getting a product from idea phase to prototype phase to scaling phase. And the same production line that I went through when running a physical product business, the fashion line, is essentially the same production line that I go through when I'm creating digital products. So when I'm putting e-courses out, when I'm trying to put a book out, it's the same process of how do I get this idea that's in my head out of my head into some sort of tangible way? How do I polish up that, very rough first draft, turn it into something that people want to buy? And then how do I market it? And then again, the third business was very much all about speaking to women, understanding women, getting inside of women's heads, learning how to market to women, and then very much personal branding and publicity. And that's essentially what I do in this business. I really speak to women. I understand how they operate. My courses are designed to help women in particular with the things that women in particular have trouble with, such as presenting as a personal brand, such as putting themselves out there on video, such as being seen and heard. So I really focus on that, which is the culmination of everything I've learned in the past businesses.
Okay, so now something that my friend, Alex Hormozy and Layla talk about all the time is, the riches are in the niches. So it seems like you have your niche. It's for women but I think, because like I was talking to a friend of mine and I was helping him launch his business, and I helped him look at his analytics. And before we look at his analytics, I said, who do you think is your perfect avatar? He wrote it down, and then we looked at his avatar. He thought his perfect avatar was 70% he thought was male, where it was actually 75% female. And so for every $10, he was wasting $7 marketing to the wrong person. And that's what I think, your engineering background is heavy in analytics. And I think a lot of people don't really study their analytics as much as they do before they really launch a business. So talk about that a little bit.
Studying analytics is not something that most people will feel comfortable doing because there's just so many numbers on the screen and there's so much data to try and analyze. I guess there are tools out there that make that a little bit easier for you, but if you can just do what you've just said there and really dial into who it is you're exactly speaking to, that's going to be the 90% that shifts the needle the whole way. But analytics is definitely one of those things that I guess most women who don't come from a technical or a mathematical background are going to go, oh, I don't know how to do numbers, so I'm just going to ignore that. But as you can see from that example there, Richard, that can be the big break that your business needs in order to figure out who you're actually speaking with.
And something, as you see, I'm writing stuff down because so many things I love to talk about. My father was sick with cancer 3 years ago, and he was dying of cancer. And I just put my book out onto Amazon, and it was an audio book. And I only did it because my friend said you need an evergreen product because you can make money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I did it. I took the 12-week course because I wanted to call bullshit. I'm like, there's no way. So my father passed, and I was away for a month. And every day I woke up, there's money in my account. And it doesn't matter. Money was coming in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's when I was like, they weren't lying to me. Evergreen products actually work. And I'm a guy that, like, when I buy, I do have your book, by the way. I want you to know that.
Thank
I love your book. But when I buy a book, if it's available on audio, I'll read the book and I'll listen to the book on audio. So I get everything that I need. And I was taught that by Mr. Russell Brunson. But I think evergreen products, if you don't have an evergreen product, you're wrong, because I was with GNC and we would be open from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. And that's when the money stopped. But with evergreen products, the bank is always open. The internet never closes. So talk about why it's important to have evergreen products, especially courses and digital products.
So an evergreen product is a product that sells on demand. It doesn't require any selling or showing up on your behalf. You don't have to do a live webinar. You don't have to, do social media posts. It just sells. So that's what evergreen means, always available for sale. I personally believe, especially since considering the last couple of years that we've had, that we all need something that we own, that the government can't close down, that you can't be told that you have to sit at home and can't work because you can't go into the office, that you have full control over, that you own. You have sovereignty over this product. And that's why I'm more passionate than ever that everyone has a digital product in their suite, whether it complements their coaching, whether it's complements their side hustle, whether it's just something that gives them a little bit of extra money that goes into their bank that they can save, something that has a little bit of a safety net. More so than ever, I fully believe that we need that. I also fully believe that everyone has something unique in their story, in their experiences that they can share with someone else who is one step behind them. So a lot of us think, well, I'm not an expert. Who is going to buy a course from me? You know, I haven't taught anything. I don't have a degree in the thing that I want to teach. I don't have any qualifications. But you have to remember that there are always different levels of experiences looking for different levels of coaching and expertise. So I like to use the surfing analogy. If you are a beginner surfer, you're just going to find some guy on the beach who's going to take you out in a group environment, take you into the little breaks, and you're going to hopefully stand up at the end of that surfing lesson. If you're a more experienced surfer, you're going to hire someone to take you out to the back, to the big waves, to show you how to get onto the big waves and give you a bit of technical support. If you're a really professional surfer, you're going to hire a performance athlete coach who's going to help you with your, strength and technique. So there are three different people looking for three different levels of coaching or expertise. So when you're thinking about selling your online course, you're probably comparing yourself to the Tony Robbins of your industry and going, well, I'm not the Tony Robbins, so I can't create a course because Tony Robbins is already creating the course. But there are people that are just looking for the guy that's going to take them out into the little break and take them for a little surf. So you need to, if you are just getting started and you're thinking, oh, I'm not so much of an expert, position your course to take the people out in the little waves.
Okay, so then let's take my course I just launched. You know, my book, it's $30 right now. It's on sale for $30, autographed. But I take a person from thought process to profit in 8 weeks, guaranteed. And it was taught to me by Mr. John Lee Dumas personally. So I've spent over $60,000 in courses, 11,000 hours of studying, and I compressed it into one book, one ebook, and one course. So for me, I can tell everybody, listen, you know, you can either spend the 60,000, the 11,000 hours, or we can work together for 8 weeks for $1,000 and get you where you want to be. And of course, we'd be like, okay, where do I sign? But I think, like you say, you know, sometimes the same person has to have 3 different levels. Like for me, you can either buy my ebook, which is it's going to be do it yourself. You can buy my hardcover book, which I also invite you into my Facebook groups and to have access to me, or you can coach, or I can coach you. Each person should, I think, have at least 3 different tiers instead of just having that one tier. Because some people, though, like I think it's like 7% are going to, they just want the best. They don't care what it is. I just want the best. And then there's the people that only want the cheapest. So I think you have to have a little something for everybody. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the beauty of running a digital product business, because once you learn how to do one thing once, it's the same process over and over again. So the same process that I went through with writing the book was the same process that I went through with writing my mid-ticket course, and the same process that I went through with launching my high-ticket done-for-you agency. So it's the same process every single time. So once you learn how to do this once, you just repeat it over and over again. And having a suite of products that speak to different audiences is a very smart and very safe way to operate a business.
Okay, so then let me ask you a question. When you first started your third business, like for me, when I started this after being medically retired, I looked around at the best. I was like, okay, what is John Lee Dumas doing? What is Ed Milet? What's Gary Vee doing? What can I learn from them, and how can I implement it into my ecosystem? Because, you know, like if somebody is just as equal as me, I can't really learn from them. I can learn some stuff, but I want to learn from the best and then incorporate it into mine. So who are some of the people that were making courses at a time were you like, wow, let me learn from that. Let me pick up that. Let me see how they did that. And did you, because what I did is I actually ordered courses, took courses. So I learned how to create my own courses and what to do and what not to do.
Mhm.
And I guess we all call that by Mr. Russell B. funnel hacking.
Well, I think that's what we're all doing, right? So I did the exact same thing. I was very passionate about it, so I was happy to study all of the courses. And it got to the point where nowadays, as you said, I'm looking for the best. So I want to only do one-on-one coaching. I'm not that interested in doing courses anymore because I feel like I've sort of reached a saturation point. But this has taken years and years to reach that point. I've been studying online courses for a long time now, and I always love finding a new course or finding a new topic that I'm passionate about, and just being able to go and study that from someone and condense all of that knowledge, as you said, to 11,000 hours, I think you said, of
Yeah.
knowledge condensed into a course or into a book. To me, I find that is just such a remarkable way of living time of life that we're in. If I think back to when I had my fashion label and even my fashion styling business, I tried to get a mentor then. I tried to contact the people that were a couple of steps ahead of me. I tried to get them to coach me. I tried to pay them money and they wouldn't. They were like, "No, I'm not helping you. You're my competitor." Whereas these days, the fact that you can just pay someone money and condense their 11,000 hours of knowledge into a couple of weeks of work, to me is just such a remarkable way of living. And nowadays, I do courses that I are just more of a passion for me in my personal life. So at the moment, I'm passionate about learning about human design. I'm probably not going to implement it at all in my business, but I just want to know what this thing is that all of my girlies seem to be talking about. So I'm studying a course in that at the moment just for fun.
Okay, but now, even so, you take courses like human design. Let's talk about that because it all goes into marketing and branding. Because if you know the human design, if you know the human brain, then you can pretty much figure out marketing really easy. Because we all want, there's like three things in life we all want. We all want prestige. We all want to be healthy. We all want to have loving relationships. We all want to have money. So in
Mhm.
those top, if you could do something in those top four, everybody wants the same thing. So if you can figure out the human design and the human mind, you could pretty much crush it on in social media, correct?
I think what I like to say is try and get in the brains or in the mind and in the conversation that your ideal customer is having inside their own head. So they're not lying in bed at night going, "Oh, I just wish someone had 34 beautifully edited videos across a really great UX platform that I can log into each day." No, they're not lying in bed thinking that. So that's why no one cares if your course content is beautifully edited or not. What they're lying in bed thinking about is, I wish that I had the transformation that your course is promising, or your digital product or your book or whatever it is. So, I wish that I had as you say, a loving relationship. I wish that I had this much money to pay the bills. So it's always getting to the outcome of what your ideal customer is looking for, and then having that conversation across any content that you create. So your social posts, your funnels, your landing pages, always speaking to the end result or trying to have the conversation that they're having inside their head.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about. I love branding. I love talking about branding because I'm a big branding guy. I've actually went to shows and I didn't have my hat on, and people are like, "God,
Where's
you
the
look
hat?
so familiar. You're not wearing a hat." I was like, "Exactly." But I'm a big Michael. I was always a Michael Jordan fan, and anytime Michael went anywhere, if he wasn't in a beautiful suit, he was always wearing Air Jordan. He was
Yep.
always wearing his own gear. And if he showed up one day wearing Adidas, people would lose their mind because he was Air Jordan. And a lot of people don't realize how you are your brand, and you really need to show up all the time as your brand. So talk about being your brand.
So this was something I learned in my second business. When I was doing the fashion styling, I would take these celebrities that were, on worst dress lists and no one wanted to hire them for anything. They weren't getting any invites to any big events. And through working with them and dressing them and styling them and giving them a look and feel that was really, elegant and chic, they then started getting more money in their current job. They started getting pay rises. They were getting booked for extra events outside their roles, and they were going to all these high profile events. So that's when I realized the power of personal branding. I believe that personal branding is something, and we like to say that, we don't want to judge a book by our cover, and we don't judge people with how they look online. But if you think about Facebook ads, a Facebook ad is deemed to be shown or viewed if it's viewed for more than 3 seconds. So what that's telling us is that we are making decisions within the first 3 seconds, whether we're going to continue watching someone or we're going to scroll on past them. So have a think about what you've learned about someone within the first 3 seconds of seeing them online. Do you understand their message? Do you understand what they're selling? Do you know what their offers are? Have you learned what their mindset is like? Do you understand anything about them? Or have you just made a decision based on their verbal and nonverbal appearance? So nonverbal appearance is, there's a study done by Dr. Albert Morabian that talks about the 3 different communication styles.
Yeah.
The first style being your, forgotten it now, quality of voice. No, nonverbal cues is first at 55%. So nonverbal cues being your body language. Quality of voice and tone is 38%. And the actual words that you're saying is 8%. I think that adds up. So if you have a look at that graph, the words that you're actually saying only contribute about 8% to your overall communication style. The other 92% is based on your nonverbal cues, things like body language, tone of voice. So people are getting all of this information from us before they've even understood what we stand for. They don't know what our offer is or what our messaging is, yet they've made decisions about us. So I always say that we want to brand the person behind the brand. So a lot of my consultants and freelancers say, oh, well, no one cares what my personal brand is. They care about, if they're going to hire me as a graphic designer or if they're going to hire me as a website designer. And I always say, well, they're comparing you, the person behind the brand, as much as they're comparing the work that you're putting out. So that's why I think it's important to really learn personal branding from a you first perspective. So a lot of us have been taught that we need to choose our fonts and choose our colors for our website. But social media these days is exactly what you and I are doing right now. It's showing up live online. It's communicating in a way that ignites movements. And it's people recognizing us based on the way that we're showing up. So based on our hat, based on our nails and big earrings or whatever it is. So this is actually how we form opinions about people and how those opinions inevitably lead to a buying purchase. So if I show up over and over again, I'm saying the same thing over and over again, I'm looking in and acting and feeling the same way over and over again, then people can start to depend on me. And dependability is what breeds purchase decisions, because they go, oh, if I give my money to this stranger on the internet, I know that she's going to keep showing up. I know that she's going to keep teaching me or educating and empowering me. And these are the things that are going on subconsciously when we're all making purchase decisions and when your audience is comparing you with your competitor.
Okay, so let's talk about social proof, because I know a lot of business owners, they don't believe how important social proof is. But going back into your position, a lot of people would never cared if it was Paris Johnson wearing something. But once Paris Hilton started wearing your stuff, then it's like, oh, okay. Just like for me, I didn't start getting noticed until Dean Graziosi shouted me out on his page, and John Lee Dumas and Ed Milet shouted me out on their page. Then people are like, okay, he must be doing something right if these guys are saying he's somebody you need to know. So talk to us about building social proof.
So what you're talking about there is when you have connections that are going to enhance your personal brand. So this is great. And that I'm assuming they came from your relationships with them. How did you get those shout outs? Mm-hmm.
Because I'm friends with them and I like their products and I use their products, and I actually I bought all their books and I used them as courses and learned from them. And I did a post where people can buy from them, their links and everything. And they just reached out to me through Messenger and be like, hey, thank you for doing that for me. I'd love to get together and chat. And we just built relationships from that point on.
So what you did there was value first.
Always give for me. And even though you're coming on the show, I always want to provide 10 times more value than you provide me. You'll never see me say, "Hey, I got a 2 million download podcast. You want to come on the show?" I'll say, "Hey, Amber, I love your book. I would love for you to come on so I can promote it to my 1.4 million veterans." So I'm always putting value first, and then I never ask until it's time to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gary Vee said, if you promote your friends 10 times more than you promote yourself, you'll never have to promote yourself.
Exactly.
So that's the way I do it. I'm different than everybody else, but that's the way that I do that.
Well, again, I think a lot of us are hesitant to form those networks or those connections because we place these people on platforms or pedestals above us. But as I learned in my second business, and as you've clearly learned in this business, these people are just the same as us. They're business owners. They're trying to get their product out there. They're trying to, grow their audience and connect with their audience the same way as we are. So if there is a way that you can offer value first, then that's how those relationships are built. But to speak to your other question regarding social proof is essential in the buying market because especially these days, the online industry is starting to get a little bit more saturated. So there's certainly more competitors out there. It's still so new. So for anyone out there who's hesitating and thinking about joining the industry and putting a digital product out there, we're still in the absolute infant stages of this industry. It didn't even exist 6 or 7 years ago. So that shows you how new it is. But social proof is going to help those people help your audience make buying decisions. So social proof is one of the 12 psychological factors to conversions, and it's going to help your audience decide whether they want to buy your course or their competitors' courses. So the way that, and whether that's a course or a digital product or a book or a coaching experience, and there are so many ways that you can show this, whether it's testimonials or case studies from your people that have gone through your experiences, whether it's interviews like what we're doing here, whether it's any sort of connection, any sort of DM or post that people have said or review that people have left you. So think about gathering all of them up and putting them across all of your social media. If I think about the girls in my industry that are crushing it, they post social proof almost every single day. So their stories are just social proof all day. And when I look at them, I think, wow, it must be working because all of these people are doing their products, programs and making money out of it. So that is definitely a very intelligent social strategy.
Okay, but now let's talk about building relationships. Like when I knew you were coming on, I followed you on all your social media. Every single channel you on, I'm following because I want to build a relationship from today on. And for me, I'm always playing the long game. I don't play the short game. I play the short and the long game, but I realize in order for me to get like golf, in order for me to get on the greens, I got to be able to hit the long game. So for me, I'm always looking 4 or 5 years ahead. And like Patrick Bet-David just wrote in his new book, you always should be thinking 4 or 5 steps ahead. So talk about, not only playing the short game, but also playing the long game and building real relationships in business.
And to speak to that, to not only relationship, but think about the content that you're putting out now. So no one is going to come back and see your Instagram reel or your Instagram post or story in 5 years' time, but they're going to come back and see this clip on Richard's YouTube channel because YouTube is a search engine. People go there to search for stuff, and it's very easy to find things. So if you think about the content that you're putting out and the platforms that you own, do we think that Instagram and TikTok are going to be here in 5 years? I'm not sure. Are you better off putting out content on your own channel, such as a podcast that you own or a blog that you own or another network that you own, growing that email list again that you own? I would think about those sort of strategies when I'm thinking about a long-term game is what will I own in the future? What platforms are still going to exist? And which ones will my content be easily found on?
Okay. So, and I love that. And like one of my mentors is Mr. Gary Vaynerchuk. Without him, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. And if I wasn't able to have lunch with him one day, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. But that was something he said. He said, Rich, you need to get on Pinterest. And I looked at it, I'm like, what? He's like, you need to get on Pinterest today. And I'm like, why? He's like, because people are still finding stuff that I put on Pinterest 5 years ago. He says, because people are always going to be searching. And he said, you need to get on something called Musically. And I'm like, the hell is that? He's like, now it's TikTok. And I was like, oh, okay. But he said, you need to be on Pinterest and YouTube because it doesn't go away. Like if I put a Facebook post out, it's gone in 24 hours. But if I put something on YouTube or on Pinterest, it just stays there. And eventually it'll build traction over time. So talk about somebody, you might have a business and you're like, why would I put it on Pinterest? But I think we have like 25,000 monthly views on Pinterest and we're a podcast. But talk to us about, talk to us about something like that is going where the eyes are at. Go to where the attention is.
Yeah, I think you need to look at where your ideal customer is hanging out and go and build that platform. I always say there's only enough hours in the day to build one platform really well. So focus on one, maybe two, if you feel like you've really got the content dialed in, and create content that's specific to that platform. So what works on Instagram Reels at the moment is sort of working on TikTok, but it's not working on LinkedIn. So you can't just post the Instagram reel over to LinkedIn and expect that you're going to get the same cut through. But that content is already there. So let's repurpose it. So for instance, if you've created an Instagram reel with a talking head video and you're reading a script, well, that content can be repurposed in a way that's suits the native LinkedIn platform if your audience is hanging out on LinkedIn. So for instance, it could be a long form post with a very corporate looking image rather than what you've posted on Instagram, which is probably more playful and vibrant, I would assume.
Okay, so but now I just got off the phone with yesterday with some of the engineers from LinkedIn, and they're actually going to be doing short form video that's coming out in the next 30 days. So business wise, but it's only going to be business related. So I think that's going to be really interesting. But like you said, people consume things in different ways. Some people, like when this goes out, this is going to go out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Tumblr, Flickr, TikTok, my blog. So I'm going to cut it up in so many different ways and make it native to each platform. But I think you're right, because if you try to post something from TikTok on Instagram, they're going to bury it if it has the TikTok mark, or if certain brands, if you put it on Facebook, they're going to bury it. So talk about that is trying to create native content off the same content, just in different ways.
So we've seen a lot of reports lately that are showing that Instagram and TikTok, you're still getting really high quality views. Facebook, not so much. So I would probably not recommend focusing too much time on Facebook unless you have a Facebook group. That's still a very high converting asset. And then LinkedIn, that's interesting that you say that about LinkedIn, because I posted a reel straight to LinkedIn recently. It was a business reel, but it got probably about 3 or 4 times the views that my posts normally get. And that might indicate what you've just said there, that they're leaning towards short form video content. So that's very interesting there, Richard. I'm going to take that little tidbit away and play with it.
So, okay. So what do you have going on now? What's going on in Amber's world, and how can we find you, support your mission, grab your book? Like I said, I'm following you everywhere. Your Instagram is fire, by the way. I just wanted to let you know that. So how do we find you, and how do we support your mission?
Oh, thank you, Richard. Well, the book is probably the easiest way for people to learn everything that basically I know. Like you, I condensed everything, all of my knowledge into one book. And I did that during the pandemic because I realized that people couldn't afford or didn't want to spend, a large amount of money on a course. I get that. We were all in lockdown. We didn't know when we were going to be able to work again. So I thought I need a way to get all my knowledge into the hands of people that need it, because now more than ever, people need to learn how to run an online business. And I want to do it in a really affordable way. So my book I won't tell you the price because the price may be changing in the next couple of days. At the moment, it's about the price of a latte. And then we've also recently launched a done-for-you course creation agency where we work with time-poor experts to build world-class courses for them. So I realized that I had developed this team of experts that had built all of my online courses. I'd coached thousands of people through the process in my course about courses, Freedom Funnels. And I realized during this DIY coaching experience that there were people out there that had incredible knowledge, incredible experience. They really had a great course in them, and I really believed in their course, but for whatever reason, their brain just didn't operate in the way that is required to create an online course. And it didn't matter how many videos they watched, they were never going to be able to do it. Either they didn't have the time or the way to get that information out of their head. So I just started going, well, why don't I just help you? I've got my team. You can steal my team and use my team of experts. And now we create all these beautiful online courses for people, helping them get where they are now, which is usually overwhelmed, usually overworked, usually, knowing that they need something on the side, as we spoke about earlier, a digital product or something that ticks over evergreen. And now we have the capacity to create these for people, which is very, very exciting.
All right. So I just got two messages on my phone. If you wouldn't mind answering two questions from the audience.
Oh, cool. Yes. I'd love to.
Judy L asks, what is the difference between a funnel and a website?
Great question, Junie. So a website is something that would display your services, your offerings. So think about a typical website. It has your about page, it has a contact page, it has your product listing page. But I guess the main difference between that and a funnel is that there is no way to capture leads and to take them through an automated sales process. So a funnel is simply just a fancy way of talking about a customer journey, where you take someone from being unaware of you, you give them lots of information that helps them build know, like, and trust, helps them know, like, and trust you. And then that eventually leads to a purchase decision. So you give them an offer to purchase something from you. So if you think about your experience on a typical website, you go to the website, you click around a few pages, you click off. When you land on the top of a funnel page, so typically that would be a landing page, we call it top of funnel. The only way to leave that page is by entering your email address or Xing out. So there's no other tabs, there's no other places for them to look at. It's usually very streamlined. The copy on that page, the messaging on that page really speaks to the call to action. So whatever that is, usually it's download a freebie, opt into a webinar, usually a free piece of content. Download a freebie being a PDF, a webinar, a checklist. I'm sure we've all been there where we've downloaded the thing and it goes to our inbox. So that's called a lead magnet or a lead capture, and that's your top of funnel piece of content. Once people are in the funnel, then you usually nurture them over email and get them to perform more actions, such as watching a masterclass, watching a video series, watching a webinar. And the idea of those additional trainings, and it could be something like this, watching a podcast that you've talked about. The idea of those trainings is that you're building that know, like, and trust factor and helping people to decide whether what you have to offer is for them or not. And usually at the end of that video series, masterclass, webinar, you would then offer them the opportunity to come and work with you. And typically you would offer it in a way that isn't available on your website. So for instance, if someone was to go to my website right now, they could buy Freedom Funnels for a higher ticket price. Whereas if they went through my funnel, they could go through the funnel and get Freedom Funnels at a very affordable discounted rate, which is only available for a limited time. So your funnel usually has a number of factors built in there that help build help to have the conversion. So things like urgency, scarcity, social proof, which you've spoken about before, and all these sort of psychological factors help people make a purchase decision and inevitably get out their credit card and buy your evergreen product.
Okay, last question is from Dave W. He says, with all the courses that you've seen, what is the most popular kind of course today? Is it a personal development course?
I think the most popular courses would be courses about money and making business. I think they would be the most popular. But if you're thinking about the sort of delivery style of your course and where I think the industry is going, if you're thinking about putting a course together and you want to know what sort of courses do people like taking, I believe the best sort of courses moving forward are going to be hybrid courses, where people have a curriculum that's already been put together, a package of videos and workbooks. And then they also get access to the person. So the reason that people are buying courses is because they really like the person that they're buying the course from. And if I hear from my people, when they come to my coaching course, they say, oh, I just really loved that podcast that you did with Richard. I listened to that and I thought, oh, you're my girl. Or I saw your Facebook ad and you're wearing a blue dress and I've got a similar dress. And so they really have affinity with the course creator. So the more opportunity that you give these people to work closely with you, either in a one-on-one environment or in a group coaching environment through your course, your digital product, that really is where I see the direction of the course industry going. So, giving some sort of access, like you said, they have access to you in the Facebook group. They can ask you questions in the group. Keep that in mind when you're building your course business, because that's really why people purchase your course instead of your competitors, because they really like you and they want to get to know you better. And
I love it. And I just want to say thank you so much. I know the time difference is kind of weird, but I thank you for being, I emailed you, I get an email right back. So I just want to thank you for making yourself available. And hopefully, like I said, we can build a generational relationship from today on out.
I love that. I love the long-term thinking, and you're an incredible interviewer. So thank you so much, Richard. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. And guys, like I was saying, this book, which is out now, it's called The Podcast Blueprint. This is a game changer. Guys, this $30 book is worth $60,000 and 11,000 hours. And I'm not saying it. John Lee Dumas is saying that if you want to start a podcast, this is the book you need. So, guys, if you want the book, make sure you get it, because after the 15th, it goes away. I'm not offering. It's going to go just regular price. No, you're not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to help you out. We're not going to have the Facebook group, so it's only going until tax day. So make sure you jump on that now. And Amber, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm truly humbled and grateful for your friendship.
Thanks, Richard. This has been an absolute pleasure. So excited to connect with you and your audience.
You too, and have a great day and enjoy yourself. And I know you're still recovering with the family and stuff like that. So now it's time to get to work, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's my Thursday morning, 9 a.m. So let's get to it.
All right. Thank you so much. And guys, remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have an amazing week. Enjoy yourselves. The spring is here. Enjoy it. Enjoy yourselves and love each other. Have a great week.